Welcome back to another segment of Bold Predictions. If you're new here, it's the segment on my YouTube channel where I try and make, well, pretty much bold predictions about the upcoming week in the NFL season. I've done a few segments of this already for the current NFL season 2025 through the 2026. It's been a lot of fun so far. My predictions have been mostly above like a 500. So I've been doing decently well for just really guessing which teams will win. I know my record in week one was 10-6, which I was not expecting whatsoever. I thought for sure I would be like 8-8 or something, maybe 7-9. But to start off 10-6 to get 10 games right and only 6 games wrong feels pretty good. And then in week two, I went 11-5, which I did even better than week one. And then in week three, I was 12-4. So I've been on a pretty hot streak recently. Now, last week, we kind of fell off the bold predictions a little bit, but we're going to talk all about that. We are going to recap kind of week four here and look ahead to the week five of the NFL season and see if I can make a bit of a comeback from last week. This is season two of bold predictions. I did this a little bit last year. We're taking it up a level this year. So without further ado, let's ride. Let's get into it. We're going to have to share the screen here so I can show you my bold predictions. There you go. There's screen there. We'll do that. Bold predictions. Let's recap what happened in week four here. So week four, we had Thursday night football, and it was the Seahawks versus the Cardinals. In bold, I did pick the Seahawks to win, so I got that game right. It was a closer game than I think people kind of anticipated. And I thought the Cardinals played well since the last like few minutes of the game where they absolutely had a shot to win. Seahawks ultimately kicked a field goal to win that game, I believe 23-20. Next up, we had the Vikings and the Steelers. This was played overseas, I believe in London, if I'm not mistaken. I picked the Steelers to win because the Vikings are without their young quarterback, JJ McCarthy. Last week, I believe, if we can recap last week, I believe they did beat the Bengals in blowout fashion, but I just didn't feel confident picking them against Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers. So I went the Steelers, got that game right. Then we had the Commanders versus the Falcons. I picked the Commanders to win because I think they are a very good team. The Falcons beat the Commanders, which I was actually kind of surprised about. I don't know why I went with it. I don't know why I didn't have faith in the Falcons, but actually I do remember it's because they lost 30-0 to the Carolina Panthers back in week three. So if you lose to the Carolina Panthers, I'm not picking you. Turns out I was wrong and I absolutely should have picked them. But that prediction was wrong. Chargers versus Giants. I felt absolutely certain that the Chargers would go out there and win. And once again, I was proven wrong. I knew the Giants could keep up with good teams. We saw that in the first half against the Chiefs. So I knew the Giants weren't like a total bust. I did watch a little bit of Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football whenever they played Sunday Night Football up there. But the Chargers were rolling. They also beat the Chiefs back in week one overseas as well. I still believe the Chargers are a good football team, but it was kind of shocking that they lost to the New York Giants. So I don't know how I feel about that quite yet. Titans versus Texans. I picked the Texans. Both teams were 0-3, but the Titans just look absolutely bad right now. The Texans had a lot to work on and overcome, but they got the win, so that's all that matters there. Eagles versus Bucks. I did pick the Buccaneers. I thought they were due for an upset, and I said that last week in my video that I needed to pick a team that I believe could be an upset. So I went with the Buccaneers. They lost, the Eagles won. They did keep it pretty interesting and pretty close. So I'm absolutely keeping an eye out for the Bucks. Panthers versus Patriots. I went with the Patriots. They blew out the Panthers, which was not shocking. I don't know if the 30-0 win against the Falcons will mean anything to that team, but so far they're not impressing me, the Carolina Panthers are whatsoever, even though my brother promised that they would be better this year. And so far, I have not seen that. Saints versus Bills. I did pick the Bills. They're still undefeated, still really, really good football team. Maybe the best football team in the NFL currently. Browns versus Lions. I went with the Browns, even though I also know they have some quarterback struggles. But I don't know. I thought the Lions would make it be a tough to hold up against the Browns defense. I was wrong there. Jaguars versus 49ers. I picked the 49ers because I knew that Brock Purdy was coming back to play. He did not have a great game against the Jaguars. Throwing two interceptions is something you absolutely cannot do in this league. If you throw even just one, it could be a game changer. And we did see that happen to the 49ers, but I know that the 49ers special teams also struggled a little bit, so I can't put all of the blame on Brock. But we'll talk more about the 49ers coming up in week 5. Colts versus Rams. I picked the Rams. They they only have one loss. That's to the Philadelphia Eagles currently. I feel pretty good about riding with the Rams for a while. And with a healthy or semi-healthy Matthew Stafford, they can do some really great things. Bears versus Raiders. I chose the Raiders. Ravens versus Chiefs. I did pick the Chiefs. They looked better on Sunday Night Football against the Giants in the second half. I just did not feel good about the Ravens and how many close games they lost week 1 against the Bills. The turnover struggles too. And the Chiefs also just dominated on both sides of the ball. Sunday Night Football. This was interesting. Packers versus Cowboys. I picked the Packers to win. And here's why I am mad about me being right and wrong. This game ended in a tie. It was 40-40. It went into overtime. Both teams kicked field goals, and that was the end of the game. So you don't go to second or third overtimes in the regular season unless it's in the playoffs where one team absolutely has to win. And then you go into as many overtimes as needed until someone ultimately comes out on top. You don't really do that in the regular season. You can end games with a tie. So I count this as a loss for me because I technically picked the Packers. I did not specify that this game would end in a tie, but I think if you are the Green Bay Packers and you look back at week 4, you view this game as a loss because in no way should you tie with the Dallas Cowboys, who statistically speaking are probably in the lowest percent and the lowest categories on defense. Their defense is terrible. And I probably should not say that so boldly, but it is true. The Cowboys defense is absolutely holding them back from what they are truly capable of. Now, if you're the Cowboys, however, I think you view this tie against the Packers as a win because you did keep up with a really good football team in the same conference, the NFC. You were able to hold your own against them offensively. Dak played really, really well. Even without CeeDee Lamb, you finally got what you needed from George Pickens. And if he keeps playing like that, if Dak keeps playing the way that he is playing currently, I think the Cowboys can surprise us. But it depends on offense. Defense, I am absolutely not sold on. They need a lot of work. Their defensive coordinator needs to figure something out and fast. If the Cowboys want to make it to the playoffs, something needs to change defensively. Monday Night Football was a doubleheader here. We had first the Jets versus Dolphins. I did bet the Dolphins. Both teams were 0-3 coming into that week. I did not feel confident about either team, but I had to pick someone, and I went with the Dolphins because there was just no way that they would let their head coach, Mike McDaniel, start out the season 0-4. And I was right. And then finally, Bengals versus Broncos. I picked the Broncos. Without Joe Burrow, I don't know what the Bengals' identity looks like. I know their backup quarterback is trying his best, but if you're a backup in the league, you just won't have success against better teams statistically speaking. So that's why I went with the Broncos, and they ended up winning that game, I believe, 28-3, I think, or 28-13, something around that. So there was my record for last week. It was 10-6. Let's go ahead and preview week 5. Week 5 of the NFL season. Starting off today, I'm recording this on a Thursday before Thursday night football, so you can't get on me for doing this right when the game is going on. Thursday night football this week is the 49ers versus the Rams at the Rams. I'm going with the Rams here. Now, I know that both teams are only have one loss. I know that the 49ers have won without Brock Purdy before. We're seeing some really good stuff from their backup quarterback, Matt Jones, who started off his career with the New England Patriots, then went to the Jacksonville Jaguars as a backup, and has now found himself in Santa Clara with the 49ers. I know that Matt Jones can absolutely lead this team to victory. He has proven that in the 3 weeks that he took over as a starter. But it's the Rams. I don't know if there's how you stop the Rams in the run that they have been going on right now. Again, they only have one loss to the Philadelphia Eagles, the reigning Super Bowl champions. I also believe that if they don't get a field goal or an extra point blocked in return for a touchdown, then that they should be undefeated currently, if not for the special teams turnovers against the Eagles. They should be undefeated. They are that good. I think the 49ers are good also, but again, the special teams struggles against the Jaguars, losing your starting quarterback again. I don't know if this is going to be a test for Matt Jones. He hasn't faced a good team yet. If you can scroll back up here, I believe the 49ers had the Cardinals in week 3. They did win, but it was against the Cardinals. They also had the Saints. I don't think the Saints are statistically as good as the Rams. And then they had the Seahawks in their division. So they have played good teams. They haven't played a great team like the Rams yet. That's why I'm riding with the Rams. They still have Matthew Stafford. They still have Puka Nacua. If the Rams defense can get after Mac Jones and force him to kind of throw the ball and force him to run, which is stuff that I think he has a little bit of improvement to work on, then the Rams should come out of this with a clear victory. Next game is the Vikings versus the Browns. The Browns did bench their starting quarterback, Joe Flacco, for Dillon Gabriel this week, who is getting the start. I don't know how Dillon Gabriel is going to fare against the Vikings. I know the Vikings are starting Carson Wentz in place of J.J. McCarthy currently. Carson Wentz does have more experience than that rookie. So I'm going with the Vikings, even though the Browns defense should give Carson Wentz a run for his money. I just don't think the Browns offense is going to level up to the Vikings offense. Then we have the Cowboys versus the Jets. I'm going with the Cowboys. It is a bit of a gamble. I don't, based on their performance last week, I don't know if they can do it a second week, but I'm holding out the hope that they can. Like I mentioned earlier, if Dak Prescott keeps playing the way that he is playing and trusts his offense, if they can establish some sort of a running game, they should be able to win. Defensively, I don't know how the Cowboys will fare against the Jets offense. That's something that will be a thing to look out for. But if I'm going just based off of offense, I'm siding with the Cowboys here. And obviously with their special teams as well, when you have Brandon Aubrey on your team, I think he is absolutely the glue that holds that team together when you need extra points and field goals in crucial moments. Then we have Giants versus Saints. I picked the Saints. I don't know if the Giants, once again coming off of a win against the Chargers, will carry that same momentum over. I just feel like the Saints are going to be a little bit more equipped and find holes in the Giants' offense and defense that they can pick apart. Then we have the Raiders versus the Colts. Both teams are, I'd say, around the average side. I'm going with the Colts just because I my gut told me to pick them, and that's literally the only reason why. Dolphins versus Panthers. Now the Panthers are 1-4. The Dolphins are also 1-4. I Against my better judgment, I picked the Carolina Panthers. The Dolphins did lose their best wide receiver, Tyreek Hill, to a season ending injury, wishing him the speediest and the safe recovery there. But from what I have watched from the Miami Dolphins, is that when it comes down to the last 5, 7 minutes of the game, and the ball is in Tua's hands, you never know what he's going to do. It is a big risk, and he did turn the ball over against the game against the Bills, in which the Dolphins had a fighting chance of winning of. So when you look at that, when you just look at his regression from last year to this year too, it's hard to tell what he's going to do without Tyreek Hill and throwing it to his number one wide receiver. With the Panthers, however, Bryce Young is still young. He's only in his third year, I believe, in the NFL, maybe fourth. I want to say he's in his third year. He has a lot to work on too. He's by no means a veteran quarterback, but it's also past the point of where we can stop giving him excuses. It's time that we start holding him to the same standard as we do these other quarterbacks. And look, I get it. The Panthers are not a good football team. They have not been a good football team in the past, I don't know, even 5 years or so. But he still knows the ropes of the NFL right now. He's in his third year. He has been benched before to watch and learn from other quarterbacks on that team, but now he's getting a chance to be their starter again. I'm going with the Panthers just because I I don't know what I'm going to get from Tua. I do know that Bryce Young can make plays when he needs to make plays. Does he turn the ball over too? Yes, we have seen that in the previous 4 weeks, but I just feel a little bit more certain that I would rather have the ball in Bryce Young's hands than in Tua's hands. Broncos versus Eagles. Up next, I picked the Philadelphia Eagles. They are undefeated, obviously. The Broncos have lost 2 games that they could have won as well to game-winning field goals. If they make those field goals right now, they are sitting at 4-0. They won in week 1. They won last week against the Bengals. And again, if those field goals don't get blocked or they don't allow game-winning field goals, they are also looking at a 4-0 record. But with the Eagles, they are just riding at the top of the NFC. Jalen Hurts is still as good as he was last year. He still has wide receivers and options to throw the ball to. Defensively as well, the Eagles are making stops when they need to as well. I'm just going with the Eagles, and I'm going to once again trust that they have a game plan and they are going to make it a lot more hard for Bo Nix to throw the ball to his receivers and run the ball too. Then we have the Texans versus the Ravens. I'm going with the Texans here. I don't know if Lamar is going to play yet on Sunday afternoon. I know he did not practice yesterday or today, but dealing with a hamstring injury. But again, the Ravens are 1-3. I I don't feel good about them anymore. It's still early in the season. It's only week 5. So I'm not going to say that their playoff hopes are over. I'm not going to say their Super Bowl hopes are over quite yet. I do feel like this is a must win for the Baltimore Ravens, however. And with Lamar, if Lamar doesn't play, you still have a decent backup quarterback in Cooper Rush, who was a backup for many years with the Dallas Cowboys. But I'm just going with the Texans. I feel like the Texans are due for a big win. And coming off of their win against the Titans, who I know is probably the worst team in the NFL currently, if you can all if you can make life difficult for the Ravens offense, if you can force them to turn the ball over and get fumbles, which I know Derrick Henry's been the culprit of for a few games as well, you're looking at a good win against the Baltimore Ravens. Then we have the Titans versus the Cardinals. I picked the Cardinals, and it's not because the Titans are 0-4. It's because the Cardinals were very close to beating the Seahawks last week. They were close to beating the 49ers back in week 3, I believe. It was week 2 or week 3. But they are a good team. They just let games get away from them sometimes. I don't think that they're going to let this game get away from them against the Titans based on the Titans' overall play and what they're doing offensively and defensively on both sides of the ball. I trust Kyler Murray more than I do Cam Ward, and that's absolutely certain. Bucks versus Seahawks. I'm going with an upset here. I'm going to pick the Seattle Seahawks. I know that that's a gamble based on the fact that they only beat the Cardinals due to a game winning field goal. The Bucks are obviously one of the better teams in the NFC. I don't know. I think they are on upset alert this week. I do know that the Seahawks offense can be good. Sam Darnold leading that team currently is kind of a surprise. I know he had great success with the Minnesota Vikings last season. He's proving that he's still a good option at quarterback. He's been leading the Seahawks to decent uh, wins and good statistics, but I don't know. I think the only way the Seahawks win this game is if they don't turn the ball over. They play some of their best ball offensively, and if the defense can get after Baker Mayfield and make him tight and make mistakes. So that's where I'm coming from here. Then we have the Lions versus the Bengals. I picked the Detroit Lions. I don't know if the Bengals. I do think here's what. Okay, I do think the Cincinnati Bengals are capable of winning even without Joe Burrow. I do think they are capable of that. Against the Lions, I maybe probably not. Against the what was it last week? The Broncos last week, absolutely not. Against the Vikings the week prior, absolutely not. So they're missing their star quarterback. And any team would be missing their star quarterback, especially when said quarterback is top 5 in a lot of NFL statistics and records. So they're obviously struggling without Joe Burrow. The Lions, I think, are starting to develop more of a rhythm to them. They did kind of start off slow, but they're bouncing back. I'm riding with the Lions. Commanders versus Chargers. I am going to go with the Commanders here. I know the Chargers lost last week to the Giants, so that should fuel them to want to win this week and prove that they are still that same team that they were in weeks 1 through 3. I'm going with an upset again. Not really an upset because I guess both teams are still very good. I I'm going to ride with Jaden Daniels here over Justin Herbert. I I think the Commanders are due for a big win, so that's why I'm going with them. Then we have Sunday Night Football. It is the Patriots versus the Bills. I picked the Buffalo Bills, not because they are undefeated, although that's a little bit of the reason why, but I'm just liking what I am seeing from Buffalo right now. They are not making many mistakes that are going to cost them the football game. Josh Allen is making big time throws. He's finding his receivers and his tight ends that he can throw the ball to. He's being smart with the football. I know the running backs are also being smart. And then defensively as well, the defense is picking and choosing what aspects of the opposing quarterback and that offense, what to do to make them uncomfortable and kind of tighten up. We saw that week one against the Ravens, where the Bills were down by as many as I forget how many, 20 points. They did come back and win, and they did that due to making the right plays offensively, stopping that Ravens offense that is loaded with talent. We're talking Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews, Derrick Henry, all those players who have led that previous Ravens team to the playoffs and have came really close to the AFC Championship game. The Ravens are by no means like a fraud back in week one. Now looking to week five, when you're 1-3, that's a little bit of a you do raise your eyes a little bit at that, but we're talking week one here. The Bills did absolutely everything right in the fourth quarter. They did absolutely everything right last week to come off with a win, and they're still doing everything right that they need to win football games. We can attribute most of it also to the coaching. Sean McDermott is coaching the heck out of this team right now. And if they keep playing the way that they are playing against the Patriots in weeks 6, 7, 8, 9 to the halfway point of the season, we could absolutely see this team in the AFC Championship game or even the Super Bowl. So I am going with the Bills. I know the Patriots beat the Panthers, but you can't go off of a win against the Carolina Panthers at this point in the season. I don't know if the Patriots are ready to face a good team like the Bills. So that's why I'm going with the Buffalo Bills. And then finally, Monday Night Football, it is Chiefs versus the Jaguars. The Jaguars are 4-3, 4-1 now. Are they 4-1? No, they are 3-1. Sorry, 3-1. They did get a win against the 49ers last week. That aside, however, if the Chiefs did come to life against the Giants, they did also come to life against the Ravens too. Sorry, I had to go back and see who they played. But if they keep riding that momentum, we're seeing a little bit of the old Patrick Mahomes again. They just need to click together. I can say the same thing for all these teams. You just need to find ways to click. And once you click, then the light bulb goes off and suddenly you're playing football and you're playing the way that you played in previous weeks or even last season. It's all about the clicking here. And with the Chiefs, I believe something clicked against the Giants in the second half that they are returning back to their old form. I have to go look at the quarterback situation too. Do I trust Trevor Lawrence more, or do I trust a 3-time Super Bowl champion before? The answer is I trust a Super Bowl champion more than I trust Trevor Lawrence. So that and Patrick Mahomes. So that's why I'm going with the Chiefs. And that is all the games there. We will stop share here. I think the theme for this week's bold predictions is just clicking. Which teams are going to click and figure it out? You have to work together as a team. Some teams are better stats offensively. Some teams are better stats defensively. And some teams have just figured it out together, both on the offense, defense, and special teams side. If these certain teams just click, then that guarantees a win in my book and in my eyes. with the I'm going to use the Dallas Cowboys again as an example. They have clicked offensively, losing CeeDee Lamb, who is arguably the best wide receiver on that team, was a blow. He's going to be out for a few more weeks at most, but something clicked with Dak Prescott and George Pickens against the Packers, and they worked well together. If you get that same George Pickens for a few more weeks until CD comes back, who knows what the possibilities are for Dak now. When you have wide receiver one with Lamb, you have wide receiver two with George Pickens, and you still have your tight ends in Jake Ferguson and Luke Schoonmaker. Now, the offensive guards, however, might be a bit of a different story, but they I'm sure they'll work stuff out there. Defensively, however, that's where the biggest click needs to happen. You need to be able to click defensively and be on the same page. And I have not seen any sorts of that with the Cowboys defense. I know losing Micah Parsons was a major blow, even if Jerry wants to disagree. But losing one player too, your best player, even if you still had Micah Parsons on that defense would still be bad. The defense was bad last year, even with Parsons, losing the playoffs. Obviously, they didn't have enough wins to even qualify for that. But the year before in 2023 playoffs, when you lose the first round to the Green Bay Packers and nothing was working offensively and defensively. You might have relied heavily on one player to make big stops for your defense, and that's fine, but you have to work as a unit, work as a team. I don't know what's happening with Jordan Lewis. He's not the same defender he was last season. I don't know what's happening with Trayvon Diggs. He looks lost on the football field. And I never would have guessed that happening from a player like him, especially when he led the league back in 2021, 2022 with the most interceptions and running for touchdowns as well. I don't know what's happened to this defense this year, but they need to be able to figure it out fast because suddenly you're not going to get easy teams anymore. The Packers were not an easy team. Don't get me wrong there. I do know they have the Jets coming up this week. They might be easy to beat, but when you have to go play if you have to play the 49ers, if you have to play the Lions, if you have to go up and play the Bills, those are teams that are not going to be as heavily lenient, and they're not teams to turn the ball over much. So, and they also love to run the ball, which is what the Dallas defense struggles with the most right now, is stopping the run. So that's my 2 cents there. Even the Chiefs too, something clicked, but it didn't click fast enough. I think with the Broncos, if you're looking at kind of not the turnovers, but the games that they could have won, something did not click on special teams. So they need that rhythm to find and be on the same page as well. And with the Ravens, however, defensively, they're doing good. Offensively, however, Lamar is not hasn't been at his best. Derrick Henry fumbling the football in crucial moments has you concerned a little bit. So I don't think they have clicked offensively. If they need to be able to click there and get back to their normal playing games and get back to their strengths. And hopefully it's not too late for them to be able to turn their record around and be able to pull out some good wins and still have a fighting chance at the playoffs. But enough of that said, this concludes week 5 bold predictions. Thank you so much for watching here. You can catch this segment every week on my YouTube channel. I try to upload at least by Thursday Night Football. I've been pretty inconsistent with uploading recently. I'm gonna get a little bit better at that. Maybe film a few of these episodes in advance so I can just pull out and upload and be done. But that's all I have. Thank you for being here with me, hearing me talk football, and I'll see you back for bold predictions next week. Oh, also, I do have a new main episode coming out shortly. It's episode 21 of the official podcast. You can check out episodes there on YouTube as well and on Spotify. I also have plans for a Saturday special, something I have not done in quite a while. So I'm excited about that too. So stay tuned and see you all next week.